So critical, anybody? Bueller? No? Yeah, dead on. That's a really great answer. That's pretty much what I'm looking for. Any other thoughts? No? Okay. So startups are so critical to me because big companies are really good at maintaining, but they're not really good at innovating by their nature. And startups are really good at innovating. And there are very specific reasons why startups are good at innovating, but I want to touch a little bit on why innovation is so critical and so important. How do I switch over to a browser? So the shirt that I'm wearing here is we've put up a website that's y.mx.com that talks about why we care so much about what we're doing, because the people who are at MX are, and again, Steve knows this about late nights and commitment into what we're building. It's a group of very driven, dedicated people to what we're building. And of the top, and there's a list that comes out every year of the top global risks to the world. And there's this famous top 10. And the top 4, water crisis. And the others are things like fiscal crisis in key economies, structural high unemployment, underemployment, and severe economic disparity. And it's one of the reasons why we're able to attract the talent that we do is because we're tackling something truly large. And since that's going to be a large part of what I'm going to talk about today, I want to show you a quick video.
Shock. Our world is at risk. Accelerating change is making our world more vulnerable to global shocks. Shocks that don't respect national borders. Shocks that have the potential to shake whole systems and societies to their foundations. The World Economic Forum's Global Risks 2014 report analyzes 31 global risks. These risks are divided into 5 categories: economic, environmental, geopolitical, societal, and technological. By understanding their seriousness, likelihood, and potential impact, we hope to help our institutions develop strategies to defeat them and to mitigate against their harshest effects, as well as to help build communities and businesses that are resilient and adaptable. Leaders from business, government, and civil society have the foresight and collaborative spirit to reject short-term vision and vested interests and work together to find creative and innovative ways of protecting our people and our planet. Together, we can shape our global future.
And so, I'll exit out of this. So showing that that's a large part of what we care about at MX is having a massive impact, tackling huge problems that are considered by experts and scientists and political leaders across the entire world. What do they feel like are the biggest risks to our society, to our way of life, to our economic stability, to our healthcare, you name it, and how can we rank order those that if we tackle them in that order, we'll be able to build the best future around the next corner. And so for us, when we're looking at how do we do that? How do you build a really big company? And this is, I think, that one of the really critical lessons, and this is one of the more important things that I wish I understood better when I was younger. And it's that there's this very unique culture that has to be part of the creative forces, the creative events early in a startup that really determine whether or not it can be truly big. And it comes down to a culture and a type of people that when you pack these people tightly together, they create really great ideas, but they're a very specific type of people. They value truth over comfort. They value honesty over perfect societal norms, right? In the ways that you might come up to somebody and chat for an hour before you get to the point. And we see these things, this nature of honesty, directness, clarity of communication, and a desire to build something great being above individual comfort. And that doesn't mean that there's not a huge amount of respect. It doesn't mean that there's not a huge amount of energy to uplift each other, because some of the greatest and most uplifting companies have these attributes of being very direct. There are a few great stories of some of the companies that I respect a lot. One is Google. There's a story of Sergey where he sees an ad that is against the way Google AdWords should work. It was a horribly targeted ad. And he didn't go through the normal process of calling a meeting and talking about synergy and how everybody could contribute all their ideas. He took the ad, he printed it, he put in big, letters on there, or in large type letters, marker or whatever. He said, "This ad sucks!" Exclamation point. Tapes it up on the wall in the break room and doesn't do anything else besides that. And that seems really harsh. But it only seems harsh if the culture is one where people are more concerned about egos, and they're more concerned about, well, wow, someone's going to get hurt because they're going to say that you're trying to say that they suck, or you're trying to say that they are a bad person or not a quality worker. And a culture has to be so obsessed with building something great, with building an amazing building or bridge or software or SaaS system or whatever it is that you're building, that triumphs individual egos. And the people that choose to be a part of that are willing to set their egos aside to be able to really build something great. And so that was something that I kind of understood that a little bit in the early days, but I didn't understand how critical it is until I watched companies like a Google or like an Apple or like a SpaceX that can only exist if they're actually breeding that culture from day one, and they do everything they can to protect that culture. So here's a great quote from Larry Page: "If you're not doing something, if you're not doing some things that are crazy, then you're doing the wrong things." I love this quote. It reinforces the whole idea of reaching for moonshots, doing truly great things. Elon Musk: "If something is important enough, even if the odds are against you, you should still do it." And I believe this adamantly. If it's a really big problem, you will figure out the ways to solve it, but tackle really big things. And obviously the entire expression of moonshot comes back to this great event. And JFK said, "I believe we possess all the resources and talents necessary. But the facts of the matter are that we have never made the national decisions or marshaled the national resources required for such leadership. We have never specified long-range goals on an urgent time schedule or managed our resources and our time so as to ensure their fulfillment." I just love that. I mean, the fact that they set the goal to go to the moon and went to the moon and did what they did is just, it continues to echo inspiration many, many decades later. And this is what we need more of in entrepreneurship. But to do it, it requires the earlier things that I was talking about, the right culture. And I mentioned a few of these companies. They all have their very famous stories of very intense work environments. I think, again, I kind of keep referring to Steve because Steve and I have worked together. I was a student of his, and he definitely knows I have a very intense personality. But it's always for the greater good. It's never about egos. It's not supposed to be about egos. It's supposed to be about building something really great. And all of these companies have very strong and spirited debates over what's the right solution, and people really care. And that is a wonderful thing. And strong disagreements over what's the right path, and that debate is just one of the strongest things you can have in a startup. There's a story that I'll steal from Steve Jobs. Have you guys ever heard the story of the rocks? You guys ever see rock things that make rocks all shiny? You throw a bunch of rocks in a big tumbler. You put grit in there and you pour some water in there, and it turns these rocks over and over again. And you put them in, and they're just like ugly rocks you dug out of the ground. They don't look special at all. But you come back days to weeks later, and they look like the most beautiful rocks that you'd pay several dollars for at a store because you'd somehow think it's special. But all that it really was a few days or weeks earlier was this really ugly rock. And Steve Jobs shares this analogy, and I love this analogy because that's a really healthy startup. That's what you should be after. It's not comfortable. It shouldn't be comfortable. If it's too comfortable, then you're probably building some cutesy little app that you're going to flip for $1 million if you have the win, right? If it goes well. We do need some companies like that, but I would really encourage you to reach for something greater and to really try to build something huge that can have a big impact, because I think you'll look back on it and those are the things that will really make you feel like those years of your life were spent well. But it requires this friction, this bumping together. And it requires the entire team willing to submit their own egos to knock into each other, to knock off each other's rough edges. Because you have certain people that are really creative, and you have certain people that understand the sales side, the business side, and certain people understand the platform and scaling. And you want all of those people to come in with opinions, and you want them to not be demeaning to each other and at all, or anything like that. But in their conversation, you want them to disagree. You want them to have really strong arguments. You want them to say, no, we can't do it that way. That's a horrible idea, and here's why. And the person who's being told that their idea is horrible, that really believes in it passionately, has to say, I'm not being attacked personally. The idea is being attacked, and that's totally okay. Because I'd rather be at a company where ideas are always able to be attacked and people don't connect themselves to ideas. And if you can foster that type of environment, you're going to just build really great things, and you're going to keep the ideas flowing, because nobody's scared about attacking an idea or throwing up an idea because they're disconnected from their own ideas. They're just passionate about finding the truth and finding the right idea. So I encourage you to kind of reflect on what is your moonshot. What is it that you care about? And so I've got a couple notes here. I just want to make sure I touch on a few items. So when we talk about building moonshots, we talked a little bit about the culture, right? That culture is really hard to maintain. In the early days, when it's like, a small group, a few buddies, a few friends, it's much easier to have a culture like that because you already know each other, you're already friends, you've established a friendship, so you can be really blunt with each other. But there comes a point as you start to grow and grow and grow, you're now hiring that 10th person, and that 15th person, that 30th person. Well, that person doesn't know anybody, and they already feel a little bit uneasy starting a brand new job. So you start to have these things creep in where the HR type pressures take precedence over everything. So you're following a lot of the rules that are good rules in a lot of larger organizations, but they slow down the speed of communication. They slow down the honesty. They slow down, they put other things above truth, so that the organization can literally, 90% of them can know they're heading in the wrong direction, but no one says anything because they don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, or they don't want to rock the boat type of a thing. And so it's really important. That's why startups are so key, is because they, by their very nature, are willing to throw around ideas in a really creative way, and large companies are not good at throwing around ideas and letting them kind of surface and thrive. They're good at maintaining the ship, keeping it steady, keeping the ship that's already worth a lot of money and creating a lot of revenue, keeping it kind of moving in the right direction. So if we can get more entrepreneurs to start companies knowing that they're going to intend to build a moonshot type company, then they can invest in that culture early on to make sure that it can maintain. And the slide before I showed Google and Apple and SpaceX and those types, they've done a really good job finding really passionate people and trying to maintain and protect that culture so it continues to grow. So a little bit about MX. So what's our moonshot? So one of the problems that we're tackling, obviously from the top 10 economic risks, we're addressing some of the most important risks on that list. But how big, and this is a slide from a big data presentation that we gave at the Big Data and Analytics Summit, but how big is what we're tackling? This is just for the US. This is just US numbers. This is estimated number of non-cash transactions. This is not dollars. This is actual transactions that are occurring. 122.8 billion transactions in 1 year in just the US. So it's huge amounts of data that's occurring. It's not occurring correctly, it's not occurring in an efficient way. Who here loves how their bank works, or loves how their banking software works? We've got a couple. That's awesome. I'm curious, what do you love about your bank? Who is your bank? Okay, USA is one of the few banks that we get the loves from. I went to the Air Force Academy when I was 17, so I started pretty young, got indoctrinated into the USA culture. So my primary spend card is a USA card. I love USA as well. There's someone else who do you bank with? Wells Fargo? What do you like about Wells Fargo? Okay, cool. What's easy about it? Just that it's online and... Okay. Who's frustrated with their bank? Okay, I've got a few hands. What's one of the most frustrating things about your bank? Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to come back to that one because that's a great point. There's another hand somewhere up over here. Really? Okay. All right, so security is a concern. Was there another one? Another hand up somewhere? Okay. So as far as the immediateness of data, what blows my mind is that a social networking company like Facebook, I can have a friend on the other side of the world post a picture and tag me in it, and I know within a second that occurred. And it's available, it's online. I can look at a high-res photo, I can tag other people, and I can comment in it, I can see it happen instantaneously. But you pay a bill, not a little picture. You're paying a bill that could be a several $100 bill, but yet you have no information a second later. Was it paid? Is it okay? That type of thing. What's crazy too is you swipe your card, and a few days later, sometimes it doesn't post yet. It's still pending. Are they confused about it? Like, well, I don't understand. I swipe my card, pretty sure the merchant thinks they're getting their money. How come the bank can't figure out their mind and just let me know? Is it done or is it not done? And then also, it's just this archaic system. You look at a transaction and it says, point of sale purchase VZY something, like, or VZW, and like, what's that? Oh, it's Verizon Wireless. Well, why don't you just tell me it's Verizon Wireless? Why are you giving me this crazy cryptic description? And then also, it doesn't tell me what the description was for. It doesn't categorize it for me. It doesn't help me spend my money. When you look at your bank and you look at the value that Google gives you, if you look at the value that Facebook gives you, your bank just completely leaves you hanging. And it's not necessarily the bank's fault or the credit union's fault. They don't have the right software providers to help enable them and to deliver a modern banking experience. If you think about it, if Google operated the way that a bank did, it would charge you $5 a month subscription fee, and you'd get charged a few cents per search, and you'd have basic text results, right? Instead, Google is obsessed with delivering to you an incredible experience. Who here searches for their flight info on Google? Type in like Southwest, flight, whatever, and it immediately gives you, it's on time, your gate number. It's the most reliable source I found for an accurate gate number. I love it. I was using, everything from Google Maps to shopping to images to videos, you name it. But also, like Street View is one of those things that just blows me away. Has anyone here used Canyon View? Like where you actually, they took Street View. So first of all, Google, a search company, they're so obsessed with delivering to you an incredible experience that they're saying, well, we're not only going to map out every single street so that you can figure out directions, but what if you want to see what it looks like on that street? Well, that's an impossible task. That's a moonshot kind of task. We're going to put cars, we're going to put cameras on top of them, we're going to design software that'll do 360 views, right? And we're going to drive them on every single road and give you street view. Well, they didn't stop there. They said, okay, well, that's great, but what if you're going to the Grand Canyon? We're stopping at the road. So they created a backpack, they put a pole on it, they put the same cameras they put on the top of the car, and they had people hike all the canyons. And then they have camel view. You go down to Dubai. You want to see what it's like to go through Abu Dhabi's desert? You can do it. You want to see what it's like to walk around the Taj Mahal? You can do it. These are things that you didn't even ask for, but once you have it and once you see it, you're saying, well, what the heck? This is a company with hundreds of billions of dollars. Why are they delivering for me? So what happens when I have banks that have 1.4? We've got a great company culture. We definitely work really hard. The things that really define our culture is that we value honesty, we value truth, we value frankness and candor. We want to make everybody in the team as smart as they can be, as quickly as they can be, as educated, as experienced. We're very committed to each other's success. But as a result of that commitment, that common commitment, it creates a very fun, energetic culture. So that's our company.